Thanks, Meryl. So I feel very honoured to be here in present company. It feels very auspicious to be invited to facilitate this global panel of somatic coaches. So we have today, I want to do a little quick introduction. We've got Kate Avery, who is a somatic coach and also you're based in the UK, not too far away from where I am. I'm Rachel Blackman and I'm a trainer at the school. I'm based in the UK as well. And we've got Melanie Foot-Davis, who is zooming in from the US. It's an unhospitable time of night there for you, Melanie. Welcome. Melanie is also a somatic coach. And Nick Robertson is also a somatic coach. And Nick is our regional lead at the new Australasia intake, which is super exciting. We'll talk a bit about it in a sec. And Nick, you're zooming in from New Zealand.
An Australian zooming in from New Zealand.
Yeah. And all of these extraordinary women are, as well as being somatic coaches and bringing their own really unique flavour to the work, also trained at the somatic school. So they used to be my students and now they're my colleagues, and it's just a real honour to be in the same room as you all. And we've also got Meryl Rowlands from the school, and Meryl is the integrator at the school, and she's here today to mostly support us with tech stuff. So if there's anything, you've got any questions that are tech related, just ask Meryl, or something's not working for you, just drop Meryl a line. And my accent might be confusing because I have an Australian accent, but I'm based in the UK in the south of England, and I have been a trainer at the somatic school pretty much since it began, about 6 or 7 years ago now, 6 years ago, and I'm also a somatic educator and a coach myself, a somatic coach myself. So welcome everybody. We have got quite a lot of things to get through today. And I wondered if, before we jump in with questions, it might be really interesting just to hear a little breath from each of you. I'd love to hear, Kate, tell us a little bit, give us a little picture about where you are in the world at the moment, like what it's like where you are.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Rachel. And hi, it's lovely to see everyone here. I'm in sunny, well, just outside sunny Brighton on the south coast, and it is sunny today for a change, so it feels really nice. It's morning here for me, so I'm starting to wake up as some of you are ending your day. So yeah, but I'm just really happy to be here. I'm really happy to share the space with you, and I'm excited about the conversation.
Beautiful. Thanks, Kate. Melanie, what about you?
Well, I am zooming in from the suburb of Chicago, Illinois, in the U.S. And like Kate, I am waking up, but so excited to be here today with you all.
Beautiful. Thanks, Melanie. Welcome. And Nick?
Hi, everyone. It's 7 p.m. here tonight, and I'm in Christchurch in New Zealand. And I'm just so grateful to be here, and yeah, just delighted to be discussing all things somatic on a Monday night.
Yeah, lovely. And Meryl, you're in Lisbon. I forgot to mention where you are.
Yes, I'm representing Portugal. Yeah, I live in Lisbon, British, living over here, and yeah, happy to be here this morning. Lovely to see all your faces.
Beautiful. So it's truly global, and it seems like we've got global people here as well visiting. That might be a really nice segue into my first question. So I know some of you did the training overnight or at crazy hours of the night, like inhospitable hours of the night. And I wonder how that was for you. How was it to be training crazy hours? Because it's like quite an intensive process, isn't it? It's like all weekend mostly, depending. Who wants to take that one? I know Nick and Melanie especially, you really did do the long hours. How is that for you, Nick?
Yeah, I legitimately did go through the night. We would start.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. And when I say that, I think people think I'm joking, but I actually started at say 8:30 at night or 10:30 at night, depending on daylight savings, and I went until 6:30 a.m. in the morning. And I still don't really know how I physically did it. Speaking about it, it feels a bit like, did you even really do that? But I did. And we went for a full weekend once a month. And that's what, yeah, I guess that's what you do when you just are so, I was so passionate about what I was doing and what I was learning that I wasn't even thinking about what time of night it was, I guess.
Yeah, right. And all the integration course and practicums too.
Of course.
Wow. And what's your sense of what was fueling you? Yeah.
Besides being tad crazy, I just loved it. You know, my husband said I was like a shift worker, and basically he would be starting, you know, his day and I'd be going through the night, and I was just so interested in everything I was learning, but also seeing the faces of the other Somanauts and the people that I was doing the class with. It just, the ability to also know that I could just show up however I was, because at some parts of the night I wasn't great. And so, you know, they would allow me to be that, and we would still just have an amazing time because we could always just be as we were. And I guess knowing that I was working towards something so important and I was so committed to how important it was definitely something that made me, yeah, it gave me that energy to keep going.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big commitment, isn't it? 8 p.m. till 6 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, wow. And what about you, Melanie? Sorry, Nick, I talked over you. What'd you say?
I just said lots of coffee, like legitimately.
Yeah. And what about you, Melanie? Because you put in some crazy hours as well, didn't you? What were your hours?
Yes, so for me, it was 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I felt it was so many reasons to show up. One, it was a space like my cohort was so warm and welcoming that I actually looked forward to it. I would find myself excited the night before because I was going to be, in many ways, I would say, I get to be with my people, right? And like Nick said, the cause, like the passion for the work that we were going to be doing and what I was going to be learning. And I am one that I want to make sure that the work that I'm doing it with integrity. And so being able to know that I was going to not only get that, but to be held in a container where it felt safe to learn at any hour of the day, to take something that feels like so hugely a part of my purpose for living, that the hour, like it was no question about getting up. The time, it was almost like I was operating more on Kairos time anyway than Chronos. Like it didn't feel like 3 a.m. once I got up. Just like even earlier, I said, I'm just waking up. And after I said it, to be honest, I was like, but is that true? And it wasn't, because I actually feel so energized right now because I get to really be here about something that I'm so deeply passionate about, and something that I feel is so meaningful as it relates to helping to help others heal and move through life in a way where they feel seen, heard, respected, loved, cared for, all of that, until time doesn't, it's not even a factor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that, Melanie, because I really feel that sometimes in the training spaces, there's a like a kind of rarefied, I don't know. It feels very like it's very sacred time, the time together doing the learning. Yeah. And that kind of brings me in. I was going to bring you in, Kate, but I know you trained in the UK, so you were one of the lucky ones who got to do it at a sort of operating hours.
Yeah, although I would say, I mean, I was in absolute awe of my colleagues or my peers that I went through when they were showing up in the way that they did, because it's a really intense program in a fabulous way. It's really deep learning, but one of the things that I really appreciated about the way that the training is structured is it's intense, but it also feels really spacious. And I have the sense that that's what gave us, whatever time zone we were working on, that's what gave us sort of more capacity to move through it. So we got nice long breaks. There was time to do practices. I've done other training where it feels like you're trying to cram everything in, and when it's like that, it feels it's sort of an added stress if you're doing it in the middle of the night. So I think that's one of the things I mean, I noticed it just being on normal time zone, that I really, appreciated the way that the training was delivered and structured in that way.
Mm. Yeah, that sense of like prioritizing the humans in the room to be humans, and we all get to be humans, how we show up, and so often in training spaces that's kind of secondary something, whereas we're bringing being a human front and center as our first priority almost, and that feels so nourishing. Yeah, lovely. So I'm really curious how these tools, because each of you I know trained in other modalities before you came to the school, like you had other strings to your bow, if you like. And I'm really curious about how these tools kind of transformed your practice, or kind of what they brought to your practice. Anyone want to share a bit about that? Anyone? Yeah, Melanie, go for it.
So thank you for that inquiry. Really, so for me, I started this work prior to the Somatic School 23 years ago. And, you know, I'm human. And so as I went through growing my practice or being in practice, over time, you start to develop your own unique way for doing things. And being in this space, it one brought me back to my foundation in many ways. And I also was reminded that there were many times I was working harder as a coach, like way harder than I needed to. And so I was reminded of how powerful presence is
Mm.
and what that brings to the coachee relationship, and
Mm.
how it makes space for the coachee to be able to arrive fully.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's just one of many things.
Right. So again, I'm hearing like a game changer in terms of um, the quality of presence it's inviting you to bring as a primary thing. Again, like being a human first in the presence of another. Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Melanie. Anyone else?
And I might add that it was actually demonstrated even in how we train. And I had the honor and privilege of having you as my trainer, Rachel. And the way that you like to be able to observe and experience the way you hold space and held space for us was a consistent reminder, like this is a way to get to show up for others
Mm.
without taking anything away from it. It was done in a way that was so gracious that it was nourishing to my soul to even witness and experience it um, from a different perspective. And
Mm.
so, like, being in the experience of it is so much different than reading about it, writing about it. And so that kind of helped me to embody how powerful that really is for me, and how it can also be for my clients and for those they serve.
Beautiful. Thanks, Melanie. And I noticed Nick and Kate, you both came off mute at the same time. Nick, do you want to go? And then I'll come to you, Kate.
Yeah, funnily enough, I came to the somatic school because I was looking to further my education for my compassionate inquiry modality that I'd already learned. And what I didn't realize is that with all of the other modalities that I had, that this was the missing link, that this was the framework. It was the foundation in which I could layer my other modalities onto, so to speak. But yet, if I hadn't have had this framework, I don't know that I'd be sitting in my own practice today. It gave me the ability to understand that coaching framework, but also the way that, I guess, with some of the modalities I learnt, it was about, body orientation, but we never truly learnt when we were speaking to the intellect and when we were speaking to the body. And for me, the game changer with this work and this course was that I can now know through the tools that we have been given when someone is in intellect and when someone is actually speaking to me from a place of their felt sense. And for me, that is how all of the other modalities can then work, because you automatically understand that body orientation.
From, like Melanie said, a lived experience of it. You've had a lived experience of it.
Yes.
It's not abstract, and it's not a theory, it's a felt sense.
Yes. And and also the tools that we learn have taught us also to not only resource ourselves, but to help others to be able to connect with their felt sense.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Nick. Kate, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, sure. I get so excited about this question. There are so many things that I could say, but I think firstly, I want to echo what Melanie said about presence. If there was one thing that I learned above everything else, it was how to be present with my clients in a completely different way. And there are many reasons why that's the case, but one of them is being able to regulate and resource myself in the situation. And I always felt as I was going through the program that it was as much about personal development as it was professional development. And it was the only program that I've done in this kind of somatic field where it didn't feel like I was just collecting tools. It really felt like deep personal work, which completely changed how I showed up as a coach. And to give an example of that, I trained as an executive coach before I trained in any other coaching. And one of the challenges that I always had as a coach was letting go of the need to have an outcome for my clients. And it felt like, oh, if I don't get them to this place, if I don't get them to this goal, then I'm not a good coach. I haven't done my job. And why would people pay me money for that? And one of the things that I learned through the somatic coaching is that actually the change happens in awareness and your ability to stay present and just hold space for people. You don't need to steer them in a direction. That's not effective coaching. So that was a big learning curve for me. And what I started to notice was that for clients, there's a deeper level of awareness. Most coaching clients come into the space, my experience is most coaching clients come into the space pretty much understanding what their problem is, but not having a solution for it. So they've already gone round the house or the houses on all of the solutions that might be available. And so, tend to work with people who come to somatic work because they are fed up or they're stuck or they've tried everything else and it hasn't worked. And the shifts that you see and the actions that people can take on the back of it by you just opening up or helping them to open up a deeper level of awareness is really powerful in the coaching space. So I think that's what I've taken away most from the learning, but it starts with presence. It starts with your ability to hold that space, or capacity, should I say.
Gosh, there's so much there. Yeah, so much. Thanks so much, Kate. Wow, there's so many places we could go next, and I'm kind of, there's lots of places that are tempting me. And one of the things I'm sitting with most curiosity about is, I know each of you have come out of an let me say, unsatisfying work agreement into something that feels more U-shaped, having done this training. Where I think for most of you that was a corporate context, and I wonder if any of you would love to speak on that, like call it escaping the corporate world, if you like. I don't want to lay that judgment on anyone who's in the corporate world. Maybe that's your jam. That's cool. But I'd love to hear from each of you a little bit about how that journey was for you, coming out of that corporate context and finding your own shape. Who'd like to take that one? Just come on mute if you want to grab that one. I know it's a big story. Yeah, Kate, go for it.
I'm just sorry to jump in.
No.
I share this story all the time. I work with quite a few leaders, and I share this story all the time because it felt really powerful for me. It did feel like an escape, although I feel like I sort of crawled out on my hands and knees by the time I left my corporate career. And it was I was at the point that I left, I'd made the decision that I wanted to do something different. I was at the time working on the leadership team of a very fast scaling fintech. So I was very stressed. I was feeling quite burnt out. And I was so excited about my own business and what I was launching. I'd done lots of training sort of in the period of time while I was making the decision to leave. I was sort of upskilling with the training. And so I left, I set up my business, everything felt really exciting. And about 6 months in, I was sitting there feeling really frustrated and a little bit burnt out. And at this point, I hadn't really delved into the depth of somatic work. And I found myself sitting there thinking, I've got no one to blame. I've got no one to blame for the fact that I feel the way that I feel now. I can't blame my boss. I can't blame the teams. I can't blame the organizational culture. I can't blame the investors. There's literally no one for me to blame. And that was the first point I really recognized, okay, there's probably something in me that I need to look at in terms of how I'm approaching my work, how I'm setting myself up for success. And that was, I suppose, the first foray into really deep somatic work for me. So in some ways it was, excitement and ready to jump in. And in other ways it was a big eye-opener that actually I really need to change my patterns and my ways of working to be successful as a coach in this space. And it really was the somatic work that helped me to start to do that and to start to change some of those patterns. So, yeah.
Oh, crawling on your hands and knees doesn't sound good, but where you ended up sounds good. Thanks so much, Kate. What about you, Nick? I know you've got a story that relates there.
Yeah, escape feels right. Even though it wasn't a choice, I was literally bedridden. I couldn't move anymore. Physically, I couldn't move. Long COVID hit and of course I would still pitch from my bed because that's what I did. I was still working, and then
You were working as an advertising exec, yeah? In your
Yes.
yeah.
So I was in advertising, and in advertising you're only as good as the line item sitting next to you. And so, I was always on the hustle, and unfortunately my body just stopped. I went to get out of bed and I literally fell down. And at that moment, no matter how much I would have normally just pushed through, because that's what I'd been doing all my career, I actually couldn't. I couldn't push through. There was no more pushing through. I was done. My body was done. And when I had that time not being able to really move, you're left with your thoughts. You're left with yourself. And I realized I hadn't actually been with myself for a long time. And maybe that's why I was so tired, because I was trying to run away from being with myself. But in that time came the ability to know that I couldn't keep just existing, that there had to have been a better way. And I remembered a time when I felt like I was myself. I didn't even know what that meant, but I thought back to when I was 18 and when I was studying meditation and studying Reiki, and I remembered I was happy and I felt free. And so I had no other guide than to know I want to feel that way again. And I gave up everything. Well, I thought I gave up everything. I gave up the title. I gave up the paycheck. But actually I found everything, because I found me, and now I don't exist. I live very purposefully. And I'm just so grateful that my body did tell me what it needed to tell me.
Mm. Wow, what a story, what a journey. And how wonderful that you had those clues from earlier in your life, that you could refer, like a blueprint of something you were tracking that had the kernels of that medicine in it, that you could come back to and fold in and track. Yeah.
Unlearning, I call it the unlearning. Was
Unlearning.
that the things that I'd done
Mm.
to get
Mm.
me back to what I was. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing, Nick. Thanks for sharing. What about you, Melanie? What's your story there?
Well, mine is a little different because let me just say, those two stories, I am still,
Yeah.
they actually are still settling in,
Mm.
because they're relatable in so many different ways, even though it may look different. Um, and so I didn't come from corporate. However, I work with those who are in corporate.
Yeah.
And so it it was like Nick said, all of the other training that I had, this was like a missing piece to help to really bring it in and breathe life into something that could actually have even more greater meaningful impact by doing less
Mm.
and not more. And so it not only reminded me to give myself permission to let go of all of the I have tos, I need to, as it related to living up to the world's expectations of me. It also helped me to give my clients an opportunity to reclaim their own love story, their own leadership story, and really shift the way they view their leadership experience by coming back home to themselves. And so it was like I experienced different levels of being separated from myself before being here. So this gave me a chance to come back home to me, right? And respond to what the whispers of my soul was calling for. But it also helped me with my clients to facilitate a path for them to find their way back home and to shift their own leadership experience, that like what Kate said about outcomes, like being able to detach from outcomes, not just at work and in careers, but even in our personal lives. And by bringing in the body and being reminded that we get to give ourselves permission to let go of language and words, because sometimes they just won't come, and to just really tap into that felt sense and let our body's intelligence really communicate to us fully, um, just really shifted a lot of things for me, my family, and my clients.
That's so beautiful, Melanie, because it strikes me how rarely that's taught, actually, the wealth of intelligence that might sit below language, and not just body language, but embodiment and felt sense, that these sort of multidimensional, it sounds a little bit abstract if you haven't kind of worked in this way, right? It can sound like abstract, but actually it becomes very tangible, doesn't it, through working with it?
Yeah, and it's this thing that I didn't realize how much I was attached to language because it felt like something I was supposed to do and attached to outcomes, which also it made more space to empathize with what my clients were experiencing. And so them being able to see that there is a space for that, even in the corporate world, to be able to honor themselves and to show up well nourished. And it's like, how might it be to leave home feeling whole and well nourished, and to return home to those who matter to you most, feeling well nourished and whole, you know?
And in a lot of places in the world, that's still a really radical act. That just to even ask ourselves that question is a radical act, counter-cultural act. Yeah. Anything bubbling up there, Nick or Kate, that you want to run with before we?
Yeah,
Nick.
Just touching on that, I think that language and having words became really important. But what I realized when I studied at the Somatic school was that I wasn't crazy, that everything I felt as a child, you know, my hearing, my sight, you know, the smells, the way I would pick things up without anything being said, that ability to trust my gut, all of those things that I tried to keep down because I thought that was just me being like something wrong with me, when actual fact, it is a thing. Like, it is a felt sense. There is a name for it. We now get that thing that I thought I was a woo-woo weirdo for is now the thing that I can celebrate, trying to learn how to celebrate it in myself, but I do celebrate it in others in front of me, because it's powerful when we just for a minute trust that inner knowing beyond words.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And in my experience, in my practice, I noticed that I've not met a person who can't feel themselves, given a loving, safe environment, a safe enough environment where they feel they can kind of they're welcome. Then it's almost like our kind of human birthright to be able to be in our sensory being. and what a radical thing that we might have been separate from that. It's sort of bonkers that we've been made separate from that. I need to move on because I've got another question I want to ask. Sorry, Nick, I just jumped over you. Go on.
I was just saying, but I think it gave me the power to trust it, because once I saw the framework, I felt like, oh, it's a thing.
You know, it kind of reminds me of the metaphor of, like, just going to jump in here for a sec. You know, in the 1900s, when they do autopsies, they'd sort of scrape all the fascia away and go, let's get rid of all of this stuff to focus on the bones and the muscles. And now science is going, the fascia, like it's like it relates to the nervous system. It helps us regulate it. There's so much going on with the fascia. And it feels a little bit like that with the felt sense. It feels like something that's been neglected for a long time in coaching. And what we're doing is bringing it home as a sort of primary place, like a foundation stone to the way we're being with our clients and the way that we're supporting our clients to navigate their lives and their work. Yeah. Anyone want to jump on that before I change track? Slightly, just slightly. Kate, do you want to jump in there? I feel like we haven't heard from you for a bit.
No, that just really resonated actually, because I hadn't thought of it that way, but I studied sports science
Oh, right.
20 something years ago, actually nearer to 30, I think. And we didn't even, we weren't taught about fascia at all. It just wasn't part of any text. It wasn't part of any, and it's really interesting now working with clients, because one of the ways that I love bringing all of the pieces together is that the body to me is the body in all sense. So,
Yeah.
and we talk a lot at the Somatic School about body mind. So this integrated kind of version of our human experience that we've learned to separate. And you've got the thinking mind over here that's been, you know, dominating for centuries. Then you've got the physical body, which is, you know, it's become something that we push when we're exercising, or we judge it because it doesn't look the way that we want it to look, or all of the ways that we relate to our sort of physical body. And then you've got this sort of felt sense of our experience of the world, of our experience in relationship with others. In our, I work a lot with nature, so our experience with the modern human world as well. And so there's all of this going on in this incredible human experience, and we've only really learned or been conditioned to work with such a small amount of it, and it's such an incredibly empowering and powerful feeling when you start to integrate all of those components again, when you start to feel yourself and experience yourself as a whole. And I mean, Melanie was just talking about, you know, sort of coming back to wholeness, coming home. And it isn't a cliche. It really does feel like that. And I see it in my clients as well. And when you can align and get that congruence between, okay, this is what my head is saying, because we don't want to just throw all of that meaningful thinking out. Of course, it has a place. And I would say one of the mistakes I made early on in somatic coaching was I was so excited to be back in the body, because I'd sort of migrated away from my sports stuff, and had sort of, you know, sunk into this corporate world where the lifestyle was really, really unhealthy. So I was so excited to come back to the body that I went a little bit sort of too far, where I was like, right, the thinking mind doesn't matter anymore. We don't want to listen to the thoughts. We don't care what, you know, don't tell me about what you're thinking. We're just interested in the body and what it's feeling. And I've you know, I've matured in my understanding of how I work somatically now to the point where it's, you know, understanding how all of these interrelated pieces come home to each other, how we're looking for alignment and congruence. And I think one of the things for me personally is that's a sense check. Am I really working towards aliveness? Am I really being authentic? Because if I can feel this sense of separation between how my body's experiencing something and what my mind is telling me, then I know I'm out of alignment. And I know that I need to go into the body to do a little bit of checking, to see which direction I should be going in. So yeah, bring back the fascia, bring back the felt sense, like
I love
put
that.
it all together.
Yeah, welcoming all of those places in you home. Like, what if no place in you is unwelcome? What if no place in you is unwelcome? And I love saying these days, I love saying, like, let's welcome thinking home too. Let's welcome thinking home to the whole body experience. Let's welcome it home rather than, you know, it needing to be somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think one other thing I want to sort of add to that, and Nick mentioned this as well, was I think one of the values of the somatic school that really resonated with me is this permission. I can't remember the words you use exactly, but it's this permission to be messy. And I had come up through my career in this sort of belief that I had to be perfect. I mean, I have got a very, very strong perfectionist pattern that I've been actively working on breaking. But the masks that I put on in the corporate environment to survive and to be seen a particular way, that was a big unpacking and a big unpicking for me. And this permission to just be fully messy as a human. We're not supposed to be perfect. We're not supposed to have this perfect image all the time. And actually to me, the shift wasn't when it was like, oh, I can do this. It was like when I started not to care, and in a good way. It was like, actually, this is just me being human, showing up, being more authentic, being more alive. And that's messy and it's complex and it's complicated. And sometimes it might look a little bit chaotic, and that's okay. And the confidence to be able to stand in that is a million miles away from, the idea of seeming chaotic and messy in my old corporate career is just, well, no, but that is how I feel most alive now. And that's one of the things that this work has just one of the true gifts this work has really given me.
Really beautiful. And to offer that to your clients is such a gift, that you're arriving as a human. I've read somewhere there's no straight lines in nature, which feels apt. I want to change tack slightly. Thank you so much, Kate, for all that, and all of you so much for your good, beautiful answers. I want to change tack and ask you each about what is really bringing you alive in your practice at the moment. Like, what are you crushing on? What are you really into? What's bringing you alive in your practice? Who feels like they'd like to take that one? Melanie, you're lighting up the screen. Go.
I think it's building, in many ways, it's building on what Kate just said, like that permission to be messy, and is bringing in playful curiosity and doing so as adults. Like, what's that saying? We don't grow old. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And so that permission to really just bring back in elements of play, and like I'm pretty corny, right? And so I laugh at my own jokes and all of these things. And one of the things I enjoy doing is skipping when I'm happy. When I celebrate something, I sometimes skip around the room or I'll skip down the street, and I don't care who's watching. And so it's really, why am I sharing that? Is because there have been times when I have had sessions with my clients, even group sessions, and challenged them. Like, I dare you to try this, because skipping, I believe, is impossible to skip and stay angry or frustrated or confused or ashamed or any of those things. And to see them actually tap into the elements of play that's not considered corporate, not considered professional, is not considered adulting, how that just breathes more life back into their bodies, into their lived experience. Um, and so it's like simple things that does call for being messy, and also space to be vulnerable in that messiness and still be embraced. Um, so that's just one thing that was just coming to mind, because
Yeah.
now whenever someone even sees a child skipping, they'll call me or email me, and it's like, I just saw a child skipping down the street, and it just reminded me to bring that back in. And so it's the little nuances, the simple practices we get to do to tap back into our bodies and give it space to just go.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you've brought creativity in, Melanie, because what we do is so creative. I think as somatic coaches, it's a deeply creative exploration. Always, it's improvisatory and creative and embodied, and that's like my crack. I want more. That's a great place to hang out. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing. Nick, do you want to jump in? I saw you come off mute. Go for it.
Yeah, there's so many things here. I guess it's just such an amazing opportunity every single minute of every single day to meet with people where they are, and to really allow these two nervous systems to meet and us to see what's alive. And we are all so different and so diverse, and there's no one size fits all. And I love to be able to look inside the unapologetic toolkit and go, right, what needs to happen today? What's alive? What do we need to do? And to that point about the all parts welcome, that's a big thing. I am messy. I am vulnerable. I am fun. I am kind, but I'm all of it. And that's what makes me human. And it's all welcome. And it's all welcome with me in my practice and in life now, where in the corporate world, man, I don't even know how I lifted my head. I had so many masks, but here, I just want people to be able to be whatever they want to be, just be that, and be unapologetic about it, you know?
Beautiful. Thanks, Nick. Oh, Kate, what about you?
Yeah, I just love it. I love that sense of being unapologetic and the permission for that. I think how I'm working at the moment is starting to morph a little bit, and it's doing so because I'm aligning. I've got more clarity, and as I do my own work, I'm having the confidence, and also I'm missing the word, but there's no room for accepting things that I don't want to accept anymore. I think that's the essence of it. Is I've been trying to sort of shoehorn myself, or listening to a lot of noise about what I should be doing or I shouldn't be doing, and my own personal work is giving me this real sense of clarity around, no, this is exactly what I want to be doing and where I want to be working. And for me, it is moving into working with predominantly women through this sort of midlife transition place, because there's something around what a lot of women that I speak to who have been navigating a lot of similar challenges, just sort of irrespective of the background that they've come from. But these masks that we've put on, and there's sort of a certain amount of rage that comes, and then there's all of the changes you start to navigate through menopause and all of the hormonal changes. So there's all of this world of I suppose transition happening. And in my own personal experience, what I realized was there's this space of that sort of liminal space before you cross a threshold, that edge space where it feels really unfamiliar, it's really destabilizing, you feel really untethered. And that's the point that it's really easy to go back to what you know, even if it's uncomfortable, because, as our brains are wired for efficiency, and we do the things that we know because we know them, and it's safer. The nervous system feels like it's safer to do the things that we know, even when we know they're not good for us. And there's so much science around why people can't change habits, and why people can't change what they're doing, even when they know they've got all of the information, even when they feel highly motivated to make the change, it's still really difficult. And so navigating these sort of transitional spaces for women, where they really want to move through into the next phase. What does the next phase of their life look like? That's where the somatic work comes in, because that's what helps shift, these really, really deeply conditioned patterns, some of which we're not even conscious of. And so I'm really excited about that. And I have a lot of sort of conversations with women in this space where it's like almost like a sigh of relief that somebody is understanding and offering something different, because we can feel so stuck otherwise, so stuck in this space of there's something just over there that I know I want to get to, but I just keep circling around over here. So it's opening up that sort of that space. And I always like the idea of this kind of, you're here on a shore and you want to get to this shore over here and you've got to get on a boat to get there. And there's going to be a point where you're in the middle of the water where you actually can't see either shore anymore. And your choice is either to keep going or to go back. And you already know where you've come from. So that would be the easy thing. And where I think the somatic work really gets under the skin is like, no, let's keep going. Let's get to that other shore because we've got an idea of what that might look like. So yeah, that's what really fuels me at the moment, is getting people through those kind of liminal spaces.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, that's so inspiring hearing all about your work there, Kate, and what you're bringing, helping women come home to. And I guess one of the things that the somatic work does is it allows resourcing below the kind of cognitive fear. So we can kind of find places in ourselves and support our clients to find places in themselves that that we can source nourishment. We can find nourishment even in those places of uncertainty, or those places of, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, or what on earth is next, all those places that can kind of flare up survival responses in the nervous system. We've kind of got ways of exploring with that help our clients come home to support themselves, to be with. So yeah, so beautiful hearing, what rich stuff you're all doing in the world. It's so exciting. So believe it or not, we've got to the end of our prepared questions and there's still a few minutes. So I wonder if any of the participants anyone who's here want to ask any questions of Melanie, Nick, or Kate? It'd be a really great moment if you do. Anyone got any questions?
Come on, NZ.
Yeah, Joanne.
Hi, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing all of your stories. It's honestly just so heartwarming and inspiring to hear everything. To anyone, I'm curious to know, like, after that point of making the decision, of making that change in your life, what's the first thing you did to get started?
Can I ask a clarifying question? In the world or in the training?
Oh, well, like, I guess post-training, but also just, for example, like leaving the corporate job and then
Got
deciding
you.
I'm going to go into coaching, right? It's like, what is that first step, like that first action you took to like take that leap?
Nick?
There's a couple of first steps there. First step will be coming home to yourself and doing the work that's required to show up in the world how you want to show up. Because from there, that's the only place we can be of true service. The second thing was, if it feels resonant, it feels right. And I researched about 3,579 schools, and because that's how my logical brain works. But then I spoke to one person at this school, and I didn't know how I was going to afford it. I didn't know even really what I was doing, but it felt so right. And that meant something. And for the first time in my life, I trusted it. I trusted the knowing that wasn't up here.
Anyone else got any? Nick, Kate, I feel like you might have a hot tip too. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to deliver this. I think on the back of something that Nick was saying, I suppose my reflection on your question, Joanne, would be things that I did that weren't so helpful because I hadn't gone through. I think what Nick's saying about find yourself and do the work on yourself is really important, because one of the things that I did was pay a lot of money to lots of random things because I was sucked in by the marketing. It's like, oh, this coach is going to help you get your business to X, or, this number of clients. And I wasted so much money in hindsight because I didn't trust myself, because I didn't feel confident enough in myself. And So I was sort of looking externally at where can I kind of gather all of these resources that might give me more confidence. And something landed at some point in my somatic journey that was like, none of these external things are going to give you what you need if you haven't cultivated the confidence from inside. So if I could go back and do it again, I would do that work first. And I would practice more, because actually the way that the somatic school program is set up gives you so much opportunity to do this as you're going. There's so many rich resources in the school that are sort of wider than just the initial program. And there's such a community in the school that, you know, there's people from all walks of life and backgrounds that you can tap into that. So if I can give one piece of advice, is just, yeah, don't jump on all of the things that are being peddled out in the media to try and get you to set up your business. Just feel into what you really need most and do that work.
Beautiful. Thanks, Kate. Melanie, have you got anything?
Besides ditto to everything they just said, is yeah, just trust yourself, pace yourself, like move at your own pace, um, and build your community around those who can support you as you're navigating this new path. Because even going back to what Kate mentioned earlier about like defaulting back to an old pattern, even when we know it's not good for us, having a community that understands, or even if they don't understand, are willing to be curious enough to play with you as you ease into whatever that next step is going to be incredibly important. So that you don't necessarily, because like Kate, I've been in that space where I've spent quite a bit of money, sometimes money I didn't have, right? Because I was chasing somebody else's idea of how I should step into this. And I was being overpromised, and they also underdelivered. But at the somatic school, I did not experience that. It was it's very intimate and personal in a way that it's not so many people, that no one is there to really hear or your concerns or walk you through whatever that next step is. Um, yeah, and so just being mindful of that so that you're not comparing yourself to someone else's definition or level of success. Um, and I will say social media kind of has a way of doing that, where it looks like from 0 to 100 in 0.35 seconds. And that may be a few people's experience, but it's not the majority. And so being able to, again, pace yourself and trust yourself and
Thanks so
trust the
much, Melanie. That's so beautiful. I'm going to have to pause this because we're 1 minute before finishing. And I hope, Joanne, there was some good goodies there you can pop into your pocket. I've just noticed Meryl's popped some links into the chat there. So there's I want to honor our time. So just in this final minute, there's a link there if you want to sign up for an introductory event, and there's a webinar that you can sign up to find out much more about the school if you're really interested. And we've also got Nick, who's our Australasia lead. You might, if you've got any questions that are sort of bubbling that you didn't get a chance to answer now, Nick might be a really good person to get in touch with. Nick, would you mind sharing your email in the chat there? And that'd be great. And so yeah, if you've got the introductory webinar, if you want to find out more, you've got Nick if you've got any more questions. And I think this might be a good point to thank each of you for your beautiful contributions. It's felt so nourishing being with you all of you. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming. And thank you, Melanie, Nick, and Kate, for your generous sharings today. And thank you, Meryl, for hosting us. Thank you. See you all soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.